Joe Burrow will get his time when the NFL decides to put it in the script, because every call, every 50-50 call went one way. And deep down, I think I'm actually happy, though, because I think the Chiefs have the only chance to beat the Eagles. And if the Eagles win, they'll just ruin the year. So
greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today is our cavalcade of stars. We're going to open up with Chris Scherer. Chris, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. Some good games today so far.
Technically to the letter of football. Okay. Mike King, how are you, my friend?
doing well.
At least you're watching it clean now. And of course, Captain for Life, Will Cotton. Will, thank you for joining us tonight.
Things are doing great. Love you.
All right, fans. So today I am trying to make sure we cover all bases. So in segment one, we're going to do a recap of the 49ers Eagles, as well as the Kansas City Cincinnati game. Segment two, we caught my tag team partner, Mike Francis. He and I talked some offseason coaching moves. And in segment three, we're going to make fun of the new and improved Pro Bowl. And if we're lucky, give initial look forwards for the Super Bowl. But we're going to open up with the 49ers Eagles recap. Two things on my end before I hear from our colleagues here. Would you play them? There was an arrest from San Francisco's defensive lineman Charles Haymu or Humehu, and it was a little shaky in terms of whether he would play or not, I thought, until Kyle Shanahan came out and said, we feel good letting the legal process take place. So he played. I don't know if I would have played him, but okay. And then A.J. Brown, it appeared that he was crying a little bit, a little wine with his cheese, about not getting the ball in a blowout. And Will played for me. He knows I don't like that. So, Will, I'm going to start with you. What were your thoughts on the 49ers game? Our mutual friend was not pleased.
The better team won. Purdy had a good run, but eventually, it got too much for him. And unfortunately, he got hurt. They just weren't prepared for that, and at some point, the magic runs out, and better team won. So that's what they were supposed to do. So congrats.
Chris, what about you? What were your thoughts on the 49ers Eagles game?
The same thing as Will. Okay, well, I hated Mahomes, and then I hate the Eagles. So here we go.
So we're going to roll that through. Mike, what did you think about the 49ers Eagles game?
I think someone let the coach down, because that wasn't a catch. And 0-0 and 7-0 is a big difference, especially when you lose your quarterback like two drives later. So it was kind of one of these things where there's a horseshoe shoved firmly up the Eagles' derriere, and there's a better team, but they weren't that good in the first half, and that's without Purdy. And
well, Mike, I agree with you. Someone up top
should have
caught that.
Yeah.
Because that's their job.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, man, that's just a lot of just bad luck, because it was still 7-7. And on Twitter, I reached out and said, hope on line one with a question mark, because maybe something could happen. Nope. Beat up. Smack him around, and then you get the fake tough guy. Like somebody had posted online, Trent Williams wanted all the smoke until Ndamukong Suh stepped up and said, no, thank you. So, all right. Well, so with the Bengals and Chiefs, there was two things I was thinking about before the game. Patrick Mahomes' high ankle sprain, because that is not a good injury. And historically speaking, for me, that hasn't been a good injury. And Travis Kelce is injured. So I was thinking about that going into the game. Didn't make too much of a difference. Okay, Will, let's start us off. What did you think about the Bengals and Chiefs?
Oh man, well, I've been saying all year, man, Mahomes is the best player on the planet right now. He is the best player, MVP. Like right now, he's unconscious right now, and he's just slamming his demons. Everyone was talking Burrow, 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 and he needed to come in and get the win no matter what, because all I remember is he got the W. So he's on a pace, man. He has a bunch of nobodies. He reminded me of Allen Iverson back when he was
Oh no,
and he
there's
made,
no Booby Gibson out there or whoever
and
was
yeah,
on that team.
telling you, man, this dude was he's I mean the name of his wide receivers, I mean Kelsey all time. But everybody else, I mean, that guy had a cup of coffee barely in the NFL. So, the dude, he lights out, man. And, it's going to be fun to play him against that really good defense in Philly. So, congratulations to him.
All right, Chris, what did you think before we let Mr. King be a social studies teacher?
So remember, I hate Mahomes. I hate Mahomes. But all week long, I was worrying about his ankle sprain and Kelsey having problems, all that kind of stuff. I forgot the Bengals don't have an offensive line
No.
until after like the fourth sack, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. They don't have anybody playing the offensive line," and that's really what helped Kansas City tonight. I think win the game, even with all their faults. I think it was just that Cincinnati didn't have any way to protect Burrow, and it didn't have any way to really start the run game.
All right, and Mr. King, social studies teacher extraordinaire, tell us your thoughts on the game along with the Kennedy conspiracies.
I mean, I think Roger Goodell clearly has invested in the Kelsey podcast. I think he's the backer, and it's very clear. Joe Burrow will get his time when the NFL decides to put it in the script, because every 50-50 call went one way. And deep down, I think I'm actually happy, though, because I think the Chiefs have the only chance to beat the Eagles. And if the Eagles win, they'll just ruin the year. So go Chiefs.
Oh, well, Natty, welcome to the Raiders life.
All right, so with that, fans, we'll be back on the other side of this after this brief commercial break with Coach Francis and I going through the NFL coaching hires. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. And in segment 2, football fans, you got a treat because we snuck in Coach Franchise to share his thoughts on some NFL off-season coaching moves. And Mike, we're going to start out with the Carolina Panthers. And the big question is, did they pick the right guy? So Frank Wright, local to us in Maryland, played in Maryland in the early 80s. Yeah. Wow. Did he play before or after Norman? That's Boomer Esiason to you people.
After.
Okay. All right. So Frank Wright, he was the first starting quarterback in the first game ever in the history of the Carolina Panthers in 1995, which I actually remember. And he is now the team's 6th head coach. Why is it that The Steelers only have like 3 head coaches for like 40 years, and
Mm.
everybody else is
Got 500.
All right. So Reich agreed to a 4-year deal that is expected to be finalized by the time this show airs. Owner David Tepper chose Frank Reich, who is 61, after a search that included 9 candidates, including interim head coach Steve Wilks and former New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton. It ultimately came down to Reich and Wilks, who went 6-6 after Matt Rule was fired after a 1-4 start. Wilks was the sentimental favorite of Carolina players to get the full-time job. Tepper called Wilks to inform him he was not getting the job, according to a source, who added that there have been currently no discussions about whether or not he will stay a member of the staff. Before I have you respond, Mike, is this the right response? So a New York City law firm that represents Wilks in his discrimination suit against the NFL responded to the decision on Twitter. We are shocked and disturbed that after the incredible job that he did, including bringing the team back into playoff contention and garnering the support of players and fans, that he was passed over for the head coaching position by David Tepper. There is legitimate race problem in the NFL, and we can assure you that we will have more to say in the coming days. Before I talk about why they picked Coach Wright, according to media reports, any initial thoughts, Mike?
Same old NFL.
Okay. Same old NFL.
Same old NFL. I mean, I don't know how many times it's going to happen, but it keeps happening. We keep creating these rules. We got the Rooney Rule, we got this rule, and it doesn't guarantee anything. Not that you need it to be guaranteed. It's just at some point we need to be able to get the same job with a better resume. We can't even get the same job with a better resume.
So why Frank Reich? Frank Reich was fired as the coach of the Indianapolis Colts in November, and we discussed this throughout the season. He is the first offensive-minded head coach in Carolina history.
Mm-hmm.
That played a big role in the decision to hire him over Wilks, whose background is on defense. 7 of the 9 candidates had offensive backgrounds in a search that centered around fixing the quarterback position and an offense that has been in flux since Cam Newton began having shoulder issues midway through the 2018 season.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, Carolina has had 8 different quarterbacks start at least one game and has finished no better than 19th in the NFL in scoring. That has played a major role in the Panthers having 5 straight losing seasons since Tepper bought the franchise in 2018, at the time for a league record $2.275 billion. I think that's going to be surpassed when the Commanders are sold.
Yeah. Easy.
So, based on what I said, and before we get into Frank Reich's resume, what did you think about what the owner said and what the owner wanted, according to media reports?
Knowing that if he's an offensive guy, knowing that when you put it together like that, it sounds like a sound decision. If I'm the owner and I've always hired defensive guys and it haven't worked but maybe 1 or 2 years, then, if nothing changes. I think that's a good self-reflection because now you're looking at your hiring practice or the way you thought about it. You kept hiring defensive guys. You got a quarterback who's capable now, probably the best quarterback they ever drafted, to be honest. He has that potential. And if you want to get an offensive guy, so be it. Anybody complain that he got an offensive coordinator. The question would be is if Wilks was an offensive coordinator, would he have had opportunity?
Would there have been something else?
Yes.
All right. So who's Frank Reich? So fans, again, we're coaches, and we're going to not be noisy with this decision. We're going to break it down. So Frank went to 4 Super Bowls as a player with the Buffalo Bills, where he was backup to Jim Kelly, if I'm not mistaken, Mike.
Yes, sir.
As a coach, he won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles after the 2017 season, in which he was the offense coordinator. In 2017, Frank Reich helped Carson Wentz go 11-2 with an MVP caliber run before a season-ending injury, and they beat the Patriots 41-33 in the Super Bowl. He also worked with future Hall of Fame quarterback Philip Rivers when the San Diego Chargers, now Los Angeles Chargers, and the Colts. Eagles coach Nick Sirianni, whose team is in the NFC Championship game, got emotional earlier in the season talking about his respect for Reich. Reich was fired after the coach was 3-5-1 to start the season, ending his tenure with a little over 1 year existing left on his contract. As a head coach, he is 40-33-1 in 4+ seasons with Indianapolis, 1-2 in the postseason. He was forced to go into each of the last 5 seasons with a different starting quarterback, beginning with Andrew Luck's retirement, which is another story for another day.
That was a fiasco.
Jacoby Brissett, Philip Rivers, Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan, after Luck's sudden retirement before the coach's second season in 2019.
Matty Ice.
Wow. His dismissal came a week after he benched Ryan in favor of second-year quarterback Sam Ehlinger. Colts owner Jim Irsay on Thursday tweeted congratulations to Wright on the hiring by the Panthers. Well, gee, thanks. All right. So any final thoughts on the Panthers hiring of Wright over Steve Wilks?
Nah. I don't think that this one doesn't seem like we got an issue to contend with, to be honest with you. I mean, I ain't gonna say we don't have an issue to contend with. Let me get that right, first of all. But I will say that if in fact, because it's hard, it's very hard, man. It's very hard. If in fact that is the real reason, because I'm looking at his record like he's 40-33. So he has a winning record. We can't say the guy doesn't have a winning record as a head coach, okay? He can't say that he doesn't want offense. We talked about, you just gave the stats about everyone defensively, all the defensive head coaches they had.
Ron Rivera, Tom Coughlin. Those are the guys that have been their coach.
Right. And now they got a guy who's an offensive-minded guy who's worked with Philip Rivers, who's one of the most talented guys that ever played this game and one of the best trash talkers ever. So, AJ, I'll share with you the story that AJ told me when they played against him and how he made him feel like, talking trash to him. So
I have to agree with you, Mike.
I'm going to go with the Panthers on this one, just this one. I know other ones we have issues, but all this is lining up, This is lining up.
One of the things we talk about in terms of leadership is alignment of vision and mission. The Panthers have had quarterback issues since Cam Newton.
Yes.
And Cam Newton was running to the ground by a defensive-minded coach, okay? An offensive-minded coach may have treated him differently, may have called different plays than that, and maybe it would have sustained his career. Frank Reich, as a coach, is well documented, well qualified, well liked, well respected. Mm-hmm. So, based upon what I've read, I kind of think, okay, let's see how this works. And on the Steve Wilks side, in terms of leadership, hey, look, this year's team is not going to be next year's team. So a lot of those players who are advocating for him won't even be there. So I always pause about the runs that the interim coaches make because it's not that team anymore. No. So again, I say I pause and we have different levels of conversation. So with that, we're going to double down on Jim Irsay. So Jim Irsay, upon being named interim head coach, Jeff Saturday said he would be interested in being the permanent coach. Jim Irsay has a desire to hire Jeff Saturday, according to news reports. There are people who work in the organization that says, hey, man, what are you doing? No, don't do that. Saturday is reportedly going to have a second interview with the coach, who made the surprising move to hire him after firing Frank Reich, who was good enough to get another job immediately. Okay. So
Crazy.
Saturdays, he's a 6-time Pro Bowl center. Worked in the worked on TV, but as the interim coach after winning the first game, he lost 7 straight, and they weren't close. Okay, the
No.
Colts were 4-12-1, and while he remains a front runner, Saturday is anything but a sure thing. The Colts have second interviews lined up with a number of candidates, including Eagles offense coordinator Shane Steichen, Chiefs offense coordinator Eric Bieniemy, and Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, among other people.
Raheem Morris.
Mike, what is Jim Irsay doing, and is he just making the case for Brian Flores?
Yeah. Yeah, you take a guy that ain't never coached. This is the Steve Nash of the NFL. Like this is what we're doing here. We can't keep doing this and expecting something to be different, man. Like
At least with Frank Reich, we had a discussion, we had a conversation. We're looking at a resume, we're looking at a schematic thing.
And we're looking at
can't justify any of this.
Nah. He gets totally two different things right there. It's apples and oranges. Frank Reich got to win Frank Reich got to win a record. Frank Reich has success with quarterbacks. He's a position guy. You can see it. He's an offensive coordinator. That's not what's happening right now in Indianapolis. And Indianapolis is like the Irsays ain't never been like on point. Let's be honest. We know the recent scandals of the Irsays. Well, he loved his vodka and things like that. So,
yes,
so I don't know if that's what was going on when he made this decision. But first of all, let's go back to that move and leave Baltimore. Like
in the deeps and depths of the night.
Come
on, Mayflower moving vans.
Cost the Mayflower and their company, bro.
But that was Art Modell. I can't blame the Irsays for that. That was Art Modell that did that, right?
And what Modell do?
With the Cleveland.
And then?
And you know what? Yes.
He brought the team back.
All right.
Right?
I'm going to defer to the Baltimore person.
Okay. Brought the team back to Baltimore. So
okay, yeah, touche. Yes, because it was the Irsays that moved to Indianapolis. Yes, and the Baltimore Colts band was like they had no place to play. That was like '84, right?
Yo, the band was going around everywhere playing. Like, what? HR, who y'all playing for? Like,
okay, all right. Would you go back, Mike? And we've had these conversations privately, and this guy just did it publicly. Bill O'Brien will return to the New England Patriots after agreeing to a deal last week to become their next offensive coordinator. Bill O'Brien is 53. I swear I thought he was older.
Me too.
And he spent the last 2 seasons as the offense coordinator under Nick Saban in Alabama. He's now back in the NFL. In his first stint, O'Brien quickly rose through the ranks. As quarterback coach, offense coordinator, spending 3 years in that role before departing for the head coaching job at Penn State and then the Houston Texans. Man, how do you? Yeah, okay. But would you? Would you go back?
I would go back if they accepted me. I mean, if they accepted me to go back. First of all, you already know the lay of the land. There's some things you do in the NFL that you can't necessarily do in college. I think it's the paycheck definitely is going to be okay.
No NIL.
No,
now is he going back so he can get the gig when Belichick leaves?
Possibly, it's possibly what Bill told him. He asked him to come back. Like, hey, look, I'm not going to be here long. When I do, it's ready for you to. I've been in that situation. I've tried to do that with people. So you put them in position to, I don't want to say the Belichick way, but the New England Patriots would definitely be happy about him taking over if he was to leave, with Bill O'Brien taking over. He has the experience. Again, I'm not going to knock anything about this because he has the experience. He has the wealth of knowledge. He's been at Alabama under Nick Saban, and you know how he just teaches a whole different way of processing things and getting things done. And people, usually end up being successful, from the players to his assistant coaches to everyone involved in Alabama's program.
All right. So we're going to end this segment with your Dallas Cowboys, sir.
Oh,
so we're going to
God.
go
That
over
ain't on the sheet.
a couple,
joking.
a couple of items in terms of their coaching staff. One, the mighty Quinn. For the second straight year, Dan Quinn has decided to pass up on potential head coaching jobs to remain as the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. Quinn did interview with the Denver Broncos, Arizona Cardinals, and Indianapolis Colts over the past few weeks. And Quinn said, and I quote, "We got unfinished business here in Dallas. My complete focus is helping the team play championship ball in 2023. During his end of season news conference, Coach Mike McCarthy hinted at the possible return of Dan Quinn, saying, "I feel good about where we are, but we'll give Dan his due time." Not long after the season ended, McCarthy confirmed Quinn's decision to stay. Mike, any thoughts about Dan Quinn staying?
Some must be right. I mean, if he's turning down opportunities to be head coach job, Jerry might be promising him to take over after. Would that be the case? No, seriously.
Yeah, look, man, if Mike McCarthy gets off to a slow start next year,
Mhm.
you already got your coach in-house.
Right.
That's kind of how I look at it
Yeah.
from 30,000 feet. So if I'm Mike McCarthy, I'm nervous because I got somebody who people want next to me at the meeting, and he might have a Brutus knife in the back. Could be.
But I don't care who the head coach is, as long as Jerry Jones is involved in being the puppet master, it ain't gonna change.
All right. Well, what about Kellen and the other coaches?
What about
Offensive coordinator Kellen Moore interviewed this week for the Carolina Panthers, who
Got
ultimately
fired.
hired Frank Wright. McCarthy said he has yet to have a meeting with Moore about the offense in the future. You have it? The Cowboys finished fourth in points per game, 11th in yards, despite not having Dak Prescott for 5 games because of a broken thumb. But the season ended with a 19-12 loss to the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round. And as a defense, if you hold somebody to 19 points, you're probably supposed to win the game. Again, you'll tell me if I'm wrong. Also, last week, Mike McCarthy confirmed that assistant coach Rob Davis, senior defensive assistant George Edwards, offensive line coach Joe Philbin. Joe Philbin was there? Running back coach Skip Peete, assistant defensive line coach Leon Lett. Leon Lett was coaching. Quality control coach Kyle Valero will not return. All of these people will not be coming back.
Yeah.
McCarthy's immediate future is not in question for now. He is under contract through 2024. The Cowboys won 12 games in consecutive seasons for the first time since 94-95. He became the first Cowboys coach to lead them to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons since Chan Gailey. That's not a good stat, Mike.
No shit.
And despite these success, McCarthy's job status has been in question numerous times over the past 2 years, even if it has not been an issue with owner Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones is also the general manager. Mike, tell me about your Cowboys. What are you guys doing, man?
First of all, he's the cheapest offensive coordinator I've ever seen. Like, it's the NFL. This dude makes $72,000.
He does?
Yes.
Nah,
Yeah.
I'll defer.
He signed a 1-year, $72 million contract last year.
Mhm.
So I don't. Average salary of coordinators, average salary is $1 million.
There's got to be something to that.
Oh man, so just why Jerry keeping his ass.
So, what about the removal
Jerry-
of the coaches? Is that something normal or?
You don't do that.
Yeah.
You
He's
don't
got
do that.
he's
You don't
got
do
a
that.
cheap contract.
Yeah, exactly. You don't.
Kellen
do
Moore's 34.
that.
What
Exactly.
is- what
That
are
was
we
the other thing. The
doing?
first thing I was ready to say is he looked like, when I started doing the research, he looked like he in my middle school. That's the thing about him. He looked like one of the kids that walk down the hall and I got to rush to class every day now, Monday through Friday. That's what he looked like. And he's $72,000. We make more than that.
Yeah. This is interesting, man. This is interesting because a lot of people yourself included, or in my circle, are Cowboys fans. And although you guys come at it at different angles, it still comes back down to the same thing. You are too good to be this mediocre. You are too good to be this mediocre. So, man, I thank you for sneaking us in
Yes, sir.
segment 2. And fans, when we come back on the iCoaches podcast in segment 3, we're going to talk about the new and improved Pro Bowl, as well as give some initial look for us for the Super Bowl. We'll be right back after this short break.
There is an old business adage that says, what gets measured and monitored gets done. It is also fact that deadlines spur action. That is what the CKA Save Project academic monitoring service can do for student athletes. Measure and monitor their academic progress to improve their grades. Our academic monitoring services provide ongoing academic support for student athletes for a designated period of time. Our academic success coaches work with student athletes on time management and organizational skills, along with improving their ability to self-advocate. Every few weeks, our academic success coaches meet with student athletes to assess their academic progress, as well as provide ongoing academic advising. If needed, student athletes have access to CKA Learning Specialists who provide virtual core subject academic support for student athletes. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the iCoaches podcast in segment 3. When this airs, it's almost going to be Pro Bowl time. So let's talk to you about the new and improved Pro Bowl. Fellas, I don't even know if you know all of these fancy things that the Pro Bowl is doing, but the Pro Bowl games will be divided into 2 categories of events: the skills competition and game day events. The skills competition will occur the week of the games from Tuesday through Saturday and include non-football activities like dodgeball, a best catch competition, and quarterback drills, including thread the needle accuracy test. The game day events will include roughly 3 hours of 7-on-7 flag football games without offensive or defensive linemen. Scores from both the skills competition and the game day events will be compiled to determine a Pro Bowl games champion. All players voted into the Pro Bowl will be invited to by the NFL to participate in specific competitions or games, depending on their position and skill set. Each Pro Bowl team will still consist of 44 players. Members of the winning team will receive $84,000. Members of the losing team will receive $42,000. And it is worth noting that the NFL's letter regarding the Pro Bowl game rules officially designates the showcase as a replacement event for the 2022 season, suggesting that this might not last. So, with that being said, Chris, what do you think about the new and improved Pro Bowl?
Well, I think Buffalo already got ready for flag football. That's how they were playing their last game. That's how their defense, they just kind of stood up and just kind of, where are the flags? So Buffalo's already in there, ready to go. And Peyton versus Eli, right?
I believe so. And we also have celebrity coaches.
And I think that's another NFL script.
Okay. All right. Mike, what do you think about the new and improved Pro Bowl?
So what I'm thinking is they spent a lot of money getting a lot of people together, coming up with an idea. So somewhere the NFL probably wrote a check for $1 million to some group to come up with, let's have a thread the needle comp. No one's going to watch. No one's going to care. Did they care about the Pro Bowl itself? No, but at least that was trip to, like, as a football fan, send the best players to Hawaii. Let them have fun. That's the reward. This is just so dumb. No interest.
Will, what do you think about the new and improved Pro Bowl?
I used to watch back in the day, I think the early 2000s, even late 90s. I used to watch the skills and competition on ESPN2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, it was fun, man. It'll be fun. I've been asking for it for years now. I've been tired of the lackluster on the Pro Bowl, and I'm like, hey, at least do like a skills competition or something like that. So I'll give it a watch. I think they're doing a game day events is a little bit too much. Um,
3 hours of flag football.
because they said what 44 players make $84,000 for the winner, and then and 42,000 for the losing team. Yeah, you ain't gonna just be running around doing skills competition. You gonna do something else. That's the easiest $100,000 you ever made if you do that. So it'll be cool, man. I think what does also, I think it pushes that kind of separation between like all pro and like Pro Bowl. So when people actually say, "Oh, you're a Pro Bowl," it's like, yeah, you're good. You were at the game, like you're Pro Bowl, but all pro now, I think, kind of gets put up a little bit higher, in my opinion. When you make it a real, more of like a jest, so anymore like a Pro Bowl. Like you're in the Pro Bowl, you're in the All Star game, but like in the NBA, it's like the All NBA, first team. That's what's going to be.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of what they're trying to do in a good way. My context.
All right, and we
need to
now have it.
Thread the needle. That's like crochet.
Yeah, new fans.
Let's do some crocheting.
So, fellas, we now have the final two teams. We stayed up to the bitter end. Kansas City won with a field goal after a vicious call. Mike, it wasn't vicious. Not vicious. Okay, so we've got the storyline, fans, and now here's where we book the Super Bowl. Here's our booking meeting. Here's our writers. We've got Kansas City and Andy Reid going against Philadelphia, the team that had a mutual breakup. It was just time for Big Red to go. Kansas City has won a Super Bowl with Big Red. Philadelphia has won a Super Bowl without him. So now you've got that storyline, Andy Reid, and they're going to dust off Donovan McNabb, and they're going to dust off Terrell Owens. They're going to have those conversations. You also have, and you guys have more knowledge than me than I do, we're going to dust off the Kelsey brothers and the podcast. So just like you had the Harbaugh Bowl, you'll have something like that. Any other storylines you guys can think of? Will, starting with you, anything we should look for as we plan and prep for the Super Bowl?
2 black quarterbacks.
Hey, here we go. There we go.
So so that'd be cool, man. So that'd be cool. So that's what I'm excited for. Good game.
ECA in the house.
History.
Hey. Chris, what about you? Any storylines? We're getting ready to get.
They're going to want to say. They're going to want to say, "Hey, it's in with the new, out with the old." Even though Mahomes isn't old, I think that they'll try to say that as well. But
yes,
I think even though Mahomes is hurt, they're going to have to keep shooting that guy up with stuff, okay? Because you could see how it was really hurting him later in the game. But
Jalen didn't look his best either.
But Arizona's a warm climate. Arizona's warm, so it's going to be a little bit easier on Mahomes, to fight through the pain and stuff like that. So I think Kansas City will win.
Okay, Mike, any storyline we need to look for, sir?
I kind of like the Kelsey one just because it's one thing to have 2 brothers in it, but like one might be the greatest tight end who ever lived. One might be the greatest center who ever lived when all said and done. I mean, and neither of them were like high draft picks. I don't know. I don't remember where Jason Kelsey went, but Travis Kelsey was late. It was 3rd round, something like that. So to have 2 small schools, maybe at least Travis Kelsey was. He was a troublemaker in college, but to have the 2 of them come the pinnacle of their positions and they're playing against each other, and the league has enjoyed their podcast all year. And what are the odds? Here they are. That's the storyline I'm excited for.
All right. Now, without any analysis or anything else, initial picks, we won't hold you to it. Chris, you said you got Kansas City. Are we confirming that?
We are. I'm going AFC all the way.
AFC all the way. Will, who do you have, sir?
I'm going to the Eagles winning.
Okay, and this is initial. We don't even have a good point spread out yet. And then Mike, begrudgingly, are you going to Eagles or Mahomes
Not rooting for
gets
him.
his second?
I'm not rooting for them, but this is when it comes down to it, this is an offensive line and defensive line sport, and the Eagles have the best offensive line and the best defensive line. So that's not fair. It's a lot of riches.
Okay. Well, hey fans, I'm going to let you wait for me because I'm going to do the Dr. Coach Adams breakdown of stats and so forth. So stay tuned next week. Coach Francis will give his picks as well. But on the behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, as well as the Cavalcade of Stars, and I'm looking forward to next week because we're going to try to get the whole gang in. Maybe we'll get Merv back, will we?
Yeah.
Call Merv up.
8 weeks.
I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care. We appreciate you.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.